Now, very early in the season, I took a bunch of asparagus that I dug up, kind of on the spot where I'm standing there, and saved them in the house in a big container. And right now what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to separate some of the crowns that I had and replant them in these planting bins. Now, it turned out that only one of the crowns really was viable. I had a lot of them, but anyway, so that's how it went. The rest of these things, I actually had some seeds, and I planted the seeds. So here we are now, about a month, I guess, later. Here's what it turned into. These asparagus beds are doing quite well. You can see the new asparagus plants that I've planted. They're coming up. I remember this is the only original asparagus plant that came up from a crown that I planted. And look at these asparagus plants. Look at that. And I've got a few radishes thrown in there. Now there's nothing out here. I might try to plant, some lettuce and stuff out here while this stuff is growing, because that takes a couple of years. And here's some more asparagus. Look at that. It's doing quite well. And this will be a great crop next year. Matter of fact, you can see right here is something that is recognizable as asparagus, but it's too small yet to really, I guess you could eat it. But this is the one over here from last year's asparagus that I replanted, and it came up. Asparagus is doing well, and look at that, another one of these asparagus shoots that looks like asparagus. Next year this ought to really do well. Oh, there's something here about asparagus that is interesting. I put one of these asparagus plants in here just by accident, kind of, but look at that. It does sprout roots. I thought that's kind of interesting, so I'll let that sit in there a while longer, and then I'll plant that somewhere. It is August the 18th, 2017, and this is my asparagus patch. Now, I planted these earlier this spring, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 months ago, if that long ago, and you see how they grow. This is first year grow. You're really not going to get anything off of these until it's the second year, but even so, just the first year grow. Look at this. See, there's some stalks that are coming up that are pretty thick. Now, next year, what's going to happen here is as the winter comes and this gets cold, we can see there's just like ferns almost. As the winter comes and this gets cold, this is going to stop growing, and it'll cut back, and everything will die off, just kind of like a regular plant will, like a tomato or anything else. And there you can see some good stalks right back there, and you can see right in there's some stalks growing. Anyway, next year those ought to grow really well and really thick, and here you can see some right back in there that are doing quite well. But anyway, next year these ought to grow really thick and really well, because they'll be established then, and we should get a pretty good crop of asparagus. But this is kind of how you do asparagus. Now, this is in a tub, so I don't know how this will go. I've only done this in the ground before, and I'm hoping that this will do well, and next spring we'll have some really good asparagus shoots out of this. So stay tuned for next spring, and we'll see how this goes. But look at that, it seems to be growing quite nicely. September 8, 2017. This is the asparagus. Let me back up here so you can see it. Now, these are grown in little planters like this. As you can see, these are really doing well. And you can see there's some of the thicker stalks coming up. And you can see there's some right there. And try to move some of these. It's so thick you can't see in here. Let me back up a way so you can see a little bit, but these are doing quite well. I'm thinking that next year, over here on this side, next year this ought to give us some pretty good supply of asparagus. So this is doing very, very well. These were planted from seed in the springtime, and there was one asparagus crown that still survived, but it's in there and I can't get to it and show you.